Do you remember your first job? Because I remember mine. It was great. The company I worked for, they actually showed up to my house in the dead of night, bound and gagged me, then threw me in the back of a crowded van with my fellow laborers. Then they drove us to a nondescript building where they forced us to put toppings on pizza for no compensation. Okay, well, that's not exactly how it went down. I actually walked into the pizza place, filled out an application, and then they paid me exactly what they told me they would pay me to do the job that I agreed to do. I considered myself a somewhat happy employee, but now I've been told that actually I was a wage slave. Now, slavery is one of the greatest atrocities a person can be subjected to. But in order to understand this new definition of slavery, let's start by looking at the old one. Slavery is legally defined as the state of being under the control of someone where a person is forced to work for another. Essentially, it means you're the property of somebody else. A slave has no control over the product of their labor. They can be sold, they can be traded, their families can be torn apart, they don't own property, and they can be subjected to the most brutal of physical punishment if they resist. Now, I think we would all agree that sounds pretty terrible. So how does actual slavery compared to wage slavery? Well, the definition of wage slavery is a situation where a person's livelihood depends on wages or a salary. Yeah, that's it. So just to clarify, a so-called wage slave is not the property of someone else, has full ability to negotiate the price of their labor, can own property, can leave their job whenever they want, and they can sue their employer for mistreating them. Now, if you're starting to think this is not a fair comparison or that being a wage slave is actually just, having a job, then you're probably correct. So why would anyone be so ignorant or presumptuous to compare having a job with being a slave? That's a good question. And unfortunately, I think it has more to do with an agenda than it does with making an intellectually honest comparison. Because if you can be convinced that simply working for a living is somehow synonymous with being a slave, then you're a victim. And if you're a victim, you're entitled to economic justice. And how will that economic justice be achieved? Well, through government confiscation and redistribution, of course. That's right, politicians will now take the fruits of your labor and then give it to whoever they deem is more worthy. And if that's the sort of society you want, then engaging in this sort of false argumentation is a perfect way to achieve it. If, however, you would prefer a society where all of us can benefit based off of how well we serve others in a free market, check out this video on hard work and success.